You are now listening to About That Business, hosted by Rom Wills. Rom Wills is an entrepreneur and personal coach who has helped people reach their fullest potential personally and professionally. Take it away, Rom.
Thank you, Marshall. The ability to adapt. I'm going to tell you what, if you're in business, things don't always go according to plan. I'm laughing about that because it's true. It is true. That's one thing I found. You can't have it. You really can't have stuff in ink. You really can't. Let me tell you what I mean when I say that. I mean, yes, you want to plan. You want to plan. You want to do stuff. You want to try to execute. You want to do everything, but you may have to adapt. Now, I've mentioned I've worked in retail among the other 1,001 jobs I've done. There's been plenty of time because I've worked at like little small shop level. I've worked in department stores. Well, a department store, right? And like in the department store, right? That's a perfect example. You get something from corporate about, setting up something for a certain type of sale, like say a Father's Day sale, right? And you'll have, they'll say, hey, the plan, you have this much of stuff, set it up this way, fold it this way, all this stuff, have a plan, have supporting stuff, and it even tell you where to place it. And you do all of that stuff. And you notice no one's buying it. So you got to switch everything around, move it possibly, do something different. And that's the case. Anybody who's worked retail can tell you that. You got to switch up quickly. You got to adapt because you could have the biggest plan to do something and it doesn't happen. Like you could be doing a seminar. Like I've done I planned for some stuff like parties before, seminars, and you have a plan, you put it all together, and then you don't get what you want. Like I did a seminar one time, right? And this is one of those things you advertise on Facebook, and I did something, and it was like over 30 people who said they were coming, right? Male and female. So I had something planned for male and female for 30 something people. Yeah, I showed up. I get 6 women sitting in front of me. Right? So it was just like I had this big plan. I was like, okay, everything I had for men, I got to throw out. So I had to switch up right then how I even presented the seminar. Right? It was pretty good, but you get that. You can, and that's the thing. You can have the biggest plans or whatever, or just being in business itself. You could like have a certain way you doing business and you see it's not working. It's just simply not working. You plan for it, and it could. And you know what's funny? Well, let me get to that in a second. But yeah, it's just not working. So you got to change up. But what I was going to mention, sometimes you could have something that worked very well even for years. Say you wouldn't have a shop or someplace. You're in a neighborhood, but then the demographics change. Like literally, the demographics change, and you'll get this with businesses. They might get an influx of. I've seen this in places where they might get an influx of immigrants or something, right? As an example, they got to switch up how they do it, and maybe even what they sell. Like I knew this bookstore owner. He had a couple kiosks, and he had one, and he had a certain way he was promoting primarily to black people, selling black books, right? Wait a minute. He was selling black books. But what happened was he opened up another kiosk, but it was a mostly Hispanic area. I mean, he still has some black folks in it, right? But mostly Hispanic. He had to switch up. He adapted. He started finding Spanish language books and also hired a Spanish speaker to start selling. See, he adapted. But see, sometimes people don't make that adaptation and then they don't know what to do. You could get a pizzeria. I use an example from an old movie, Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. And then to do the right thing, you had this Italian pizza owner, and he was in a mostly black neighborhood, but he didn't want to move. He didn't want to move, and he had a relationship of sorts with the people in the community. So he said, "Nah, I ain't moving," but he had to kind of adapt some. He really had to adapt some, just because he had a different demographic. The demographics had changed, and that's the one thing. Business is dynamic, right? Business is always dynamic. Like, even now, I do make some course corrections. Everything I do, or even what I talk about on YouTube or on my private sites, sometimes I have to go with the flow. Now, I might have an agenda what I'm going to do, and I try to stick with it, but then you have people who throw out questions, and issues might pop up, and so it's like, oh, you gotta adapt. Even how I do like any of my YouTube videos, I usually got them planned a few days in advance, and we even upload them a few days in advance. But then something will come up real quick, and it's just like, oh, boom, I need to talk about this, right? Sometimes you just gotta, you really gotta just switch up. So that's the thing to remember. That's the thing, and you gotta be flexible to adapt, right? You have to be really flexible to adapt to different situations. So that's the key. I don't need to belabor this point. All right. So anyway, you know what to do. Let's go make that money.